Which second model is better to hoop in? The Jordan Zion 2 or the New Balance Kawhi 2? Today we're putting the second model from Zion Williamson and Kawhi Leonard's signature shoe lines head to head to see how they compare. But really quick, if this is your first time checking us out, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would greatly appreciate that. So starting off with the box and the price, the Zion 2 comes in a box. It's going to be the same as last year actually. It's going to be kind of split black and white with some Zion text kind of showing up on there. And then for the Kawhi 2, this is actually a pretty dope shoe box. Like, his nickname is the Claw, so they kind of worked his hands kind of around that New Balance logo. I just thought it came out really clean. I think it looks nice. But as for pricing, the Zion 2 is going to be our cheaper option today, retailing for $120. The Kawhi 2 will be a little bit pricier with the retail tag set for $160. It's going to be a little bit on the higher side, especially with Kawhi only being on his second shoe. But I mean, there was no price jump between the Kawhi 2s and the ones from last year, so that was nice. So checking out the appearance for these shoes and starting off with the colorways, today we're checking out the Jordan Zion 2 Dynamic Turquoise versus the New Balance Kawhi 2 New Money. So looking at the Zion 2s first, as far as the structure goes, it is going to be similar in height and kind of build to the Zion 1s, but there still are some changes. So the obvious one would be Jordan Brand adding the strap to this Zion 2 after not having it on last year's first model, but I am a fan of that. I just think, the strap is really clean on basketball shoes, and they even made it thinner on this Zion 2 than what most straps look like on basketball shoes. I really did like that. Then on the tongue, you're going to get that same Zion text that showed up from the box. I do like the font that they went with on that too. Then on the heel, you're going to see like a Jumpman logo kind of rounding out the design. And I really did love the look for the Zion 1s just as far as the appearance goes. I think the Zion 2s look really nice as well. But now switching it over to the Kawhi 2s, this New Money colorway was actually the first one to release. They're going to get a Declaration of Independence pattern kind of running along the back half of the shoe. It like wraps around the ankle. And then some gold-plated New Balance text shows up on the heel. And I just think that looks super cool. And you're going to get the Roman numeral number 2 replacing his signature that was there on the Kawhi 1s. So New Balance also switched up the midsole on these and made it a little bit more wavy. I think I do prefer that over last year's setup, but I mean, so far I think Zion and Kawhi's shoe lines, they're off to a really good start as far as the appearance goes. But now let's see how each of these shoes hold up on the court. So now zeroing in on more of the performance side, I'll start off with the cushioning on these shoes first. So the Zion 2 is actually the first shoe to feature Nike's new large air strobel unit in the heel, which is going to be there to give you a springy feel and also responsive support. And then in the forefoot, or just like the front portion of the shoe, you're going to get a Zoom Air unit to go along with everything else. So the first thing I noticed is that these are definitely going to be a little bit more firm than the Zion 1s, but you can feel the Zoom Air unit in the front, like just that forefoot, doing a really good job. I wouldn't say it's going to be quite as spring-loaded as like the Kyrie 8s, the Jordan 36, or anything like that, but it still feels really nice to play in. And then Nike used a new setup in the heel, like I was just saying, but it didn't really feel anything special. I didn't feel anything too special about it. But something I do want to point out for a second is, I bought the Voodoo colorway of the Zion 2s, which was like the first pair to release, and they were like really uncomfortable for me, all because of the Achilles pads that they had in the sock liner. Like, they were way too stiff, and I actually ended up bothering me way more than it helped me. So I sent those back, and I actually tested out this different colorway here, and I'm almost annoyed at how much better these feel in that spot. Like, I was genuinely ready to just write off the Zion 2 as kind of unplayable just for those Achilles pads alone, but like, long story short, the pads, they feel a lot better in this model. So I mean, it just must have been something about that special colorway where they used, just a bunch of different materials. I mean, that stuff might have just thrown that shoe off just a little bit. So I was a little bit more into the cushioning on the Zion 1s though, if I'm going to be honest, just compared to the Zion 2s. But now to switch it over to check out the Kawhi 2s, these get a fuel cell foam midsole along with an outsole shank that runs the length of the shoe to go with it. And I personally don't think a huge effort was made to making these shoes all that comfortable, which kind of was one of my knocks on the Kawhi 1. Like, my feet were a little bit sore after playing in these for the first time, but I will say they did loosen up quicker than the 1s did for me. So I mean, thanks to the materials on the sock liner, I just think, or just like, the entire upper construct, they do feel a little bit softer than the Kawhi 1s did. And I do like the padded sock liner on the Kawhi 2s more so than what the Zion 2s are doing there. Like, I mean, I just don't really love how those Achilles pads play, even though they do play better on this colorway though, which is still just so weird to me. But the responsiveness is really nice on the Kawhi 2s, in part thanks to that outsole shank. But I mean, if you're looking for something to be super soft, give you like a cloud-like feel whenever you're playing ball in, I wouldn't really say that these shoes are the best suitors for that. So now looking more at their materials and the support, the Zion 2 is a little bit more detailed compared to the ones, or at least you have a few different textures being used for this year's model. The toe region, the tongue, and like the back kind of around the heel, or around the ankle I guess, are all going to be kind of a mesh feel, which allows for really good airflow to your foot. Then the white overlays are going to be a little bit more filled in, kind of making up the rest of the shoe. And for $120, this does feel like a pretty quality model. I do like the Jordan brand kind of threw the strap onto the Zion 2s. And the lacing system is going to be a little bit different though. Like both laces actually feed through the tongue. It just makes it a little bit tougher to lace all the way tight. It's really not that bad though, and if anything it helps with the support. And honestly, the support wasn't all that special on last year's Zion 1s, just because I thought they felt a little bit thin, but the Zion 2 handles this section really well. Like there's definitely going to be less stretch to the upper on the materials this year, which automatically is just going to lead to a little bit more secure feel. And then of course you're going to have that forefoot strap to help eliminate any lateral movement for your foot. And then to bring it back to the laces, I mean, these are going to feed through a white overlay kind of near the ankle that helps like just keep your heel like from moving around and sliding. So something they added to this year's model 2 is obviously going to be those Achilles pads and the sock liner that I did just hit on a second ago for cushioning. And they do give you some extra support. They were just a little bit more like noticeable, I guess is the best way that I can put it. Like the Voodoo colorway, they were too noticeable and like legitimately hurt my foot, but I mean, for whatever reason, they do feel better on this colorway. So support is definitely probably going to be the strongest part of this Zion 2 model though. I mean, with Zion suffering a few injuries early in his career too, with at least one of them coming specifically because of his shoe, I'm not really surprised to see like a special interest was placed on keeping these a little bit more sturdy. But now switching it over to these Kawhi 2s, compared to the ones, this Kawhi 2 is going to have some different materials and just like, you know, a different setup being used. New Balance went with a fit weave light upper that's actually marked out around the heel, like you can see it on the shoe, and that's designed to give you a targeted stretch for support and give you an extra lightweight feel. And the upper does feel, you know, more thin on this shoe compared to the Kawhi one, so you could say the ventilation is going to be a little bit better on this model. And then the support is still going to hold up really well. Like I feel like pretty much all New Balance shoes have good support though, not even like just limiting it to basketball shoes. I know their brand kind of makes that, you know, a priority for like almost any type of shoe. And these are going to have a lace up closure setup with like the lacing system slightly on the inside of the shoe just to lock your foot into the model even more. And the upper is a little bit more thin, but it still doesn't move around, you know, more than it should on like your jabs, your step backs, stuff like that. I think that's what the whole like targeted stretch labeling was supposed to suggest in the like product details. So two quality shoes that have really nice support features to go along with them. But as for the weight, I mean, the Zion 2s, they did get a little bit heavier than last year's model. They're going to weigh 430 grams for this colorway. Actually, the Voodoo colorway weighed a little bit more, like 464 grams or something like that. And that's for a size 10.5. So that's going to make them about mid to average for a mid-top design. Honestly, maybe a little bit on the lighter side, but the Kawhi 2s are going to be a little bit lower than that, going at 420 grams for the same 10.5 size. So, I mean, not insanely light for these models, but also definitely not on the heavier side, which is nice. To finish off with traction, the Zion 1 was pretty good for this section, but I think the Zion 2 is going to outplay them from what I've felt so far. For the pattern, you're going to have some vertical lines. They're going to be a little bit more organized than last year's model. I do think that sets you up for some more success. And the Zion branding built into the pattern is actually pretty clean too. I even like this multicolored setup on this colorway. And you're going to get a herringbone pattern with some arrows kind of built into the heel. So, I mean, these have played pretty solid from the first few times trying them out. There's definitely some bite on the floor, and I haven't had any times where I noticed, you know, the traction not really catching. So I would say that, you know, traction alongside support is probably one of the better aspects for this shoe. And the grooves are pretty thick, so I feel like they will last a while, but I mean, the durability shouldn't be bad, but I wouldn't be super quick to use these outdoors, just depending on how your foot responds to that cushioning setup. But now looking at the Kawhi 2s, these are going to have close to like a herringbone setup in the front pattern, just not quite, I guess. But I mean, these didn't perform as well as I was hoping they would. Like, I definitely found myself sliding around just more than I would have liked. And on a dusty court, it was a little bit rough. I tested them out on a nicer court too, and they did play better there, but you know, still not great. Honestly, probably a little bit worse compared to the Kawhi ones from last year, to be honest. And then to finish off with sizing, I went true to size on both of these models, and they fit about perfect all the way around. Both are going to be regularly long, maybe a little extra room for your toes on the Kawhi 2s, and then both are going to be regular for the width to maybe slightly narrow, but not too bad. Just keep that in mind if you have wider feet. So for the final ratings and starting off with the appearance, I'm actually a fan of both of these models. Like the Kawhi 2 is really clean. The Zion 2s have these like LeBron 11, like kind of retro look going on, but I actually kind of like it, so I'm gonna go with the tie here. For cushioning, I said it earlier, but you know, I wouldn't consider either of these shoes very soft. The Kawhi 2 feels a little bit softer, kind of around the sock liner, but you can actually feel those cushioning units a little bit better on the footbed for the Zion 2s. And it's kind of funny for me because the Voodoo colorway for the Zion 2s would have definitely lost this section, but I'm actually between these two models here. I am going to go with the tie. For the materials, I mean, both of these shoes feel quality. New Balance almost always comes out nice, and the Zion 2s, they just didn't cut costs here either, so I'm going to come back to a tie for this section. As for the support, that's a spot that both of these shoes play really well, but I mean, the Zion 2 did make some really nice improvements this year. The upper is more sturdy. They added the 4-foot strap for some additional lockdown. You're going to have those Achilles pads, which, that doesn't really help the comfort, but they do help the support. So I'm going to go with the Zion 2 here, but not by a lot. And then for the traction, the Zion 2 is actually going to win that category as well. Like, the grip is just a little bit better on them than I expected. So that is going to lead to me going with the Jordan Zion 2 as the better shoe to hoop in. I was actually kind of shocked by this because, I mean, for the 1000th time, like, that Voodoo Zion 2 played a lot different than this pair right here does. Like, I almost want to tell you to not go and watch that review because I do kind of bag on the Zion 2s a little bit hard in that, but I mean, the support and the traction is definitely going to be the selling point on this shoe. And then I do like the Kawhi 2s, but I just don't love it. Like, I'd like to see some improvements from the same two categories I was just talking about between the cushioning and the traction, mainly because that was two of my complaints on the Kawhi 1s. I didn't really see it get a lot better on this model, but I mean, both of these models will be durable and support is going to be strong on both as well. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. If you're interested in buying the Jordan Zion 2 and you want to support our channel, just click the link here on screen, or we have links for both shoes down below or in our bio, so feel free to check that out. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoewear. Peace.